Yes. Um, Youth Commissioner CJ Mintalar,
Present.
Commissioner Barry Christensen,
Here.
excuse me, Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Here.
Vice Chair Scott Artis is absent, Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Here. Okay, we have a presentation tonight, a welcoming.
Good evening, Eric Alman Smithies, Public Works Director. I have the pleasure of introducing our Youth Commissioner. We are excited to welcome Calix Joel de los Santos Mintalar. Did I say it correctly?
That's good.
Also known as CJ. That's much easier.
Nice to meet you all.
I want to read your bio because I think it's fantastic. CJ brings a fresh perspective, vibrant energy, and a strong commitment to community service and leadership. A dedicated volunteer, CJ has made meaningful contributions to community and school events through involvement with Link Crew, an American Canyon High School program that helps seniors mentor incoming freshmen. CJ has demonstrated a passion for supporting and guiding the youth of our community. An avid outdoor enthusiast, CJ enjoys exploring our 2 open spaces and is a strong advocate for walking and biking along our trails. CJ's appreciation for the natural beauty of American Canyon will be an asset to the OSATS Commission. All right.
Thank you.
Do you want to give a few words?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Hello. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be here. It's really an honor. I've been around American Canyon for a while now, and ever since I was 5 years old, and this place has always been really beautiful. Today was actually my last cross-country practice, so I was able to run around American Canyon for like one last time with my high school friends, so that was pretty fun. And I'm just glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an oath of office tonight or no? Okay. All
I've
right.
already done that.
Okay. All right. I forgot he is a senior this year, and he'll be on the commission from October 2024 to May 2025. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And our next presentation is the Countywide Active Transportation Plan presentation from the Napa Valley Transportation Authority.
We have Patrick Band from Napa Valley Transportation Authority providing this presentation this evening. I'll let him introduce himself once we get the presentation online. Which one, Patrick? Which one of these is yours?
Okay.
No, which one is?
Oh, the AT plan.
While they're getting that prepared, Patrick shared with me last week, we went over a kickoff meeting on this very subject, that they also have two bike, a location proposed to provide the City of American Canyon a potential bike ped meter. That we were thinking, we were brainstorming last week that potential locations could be either at Eucalyptus and Wetlands Edge along the Bay Trail and or potentially the new Class 1 trail on Newell Malin. That might give you a pre-finished development project kind of idea and how it'll grow, or where we know there's a lot of traffic trying to get real numbers on peds and bicycles. If you guys have any feedback on that later, once he's done his presentation, think about it for a moment, but would welcome your feedback on it.
Thank you. And thank you, commissioners. My name is Patrick Band. I'm an associate planner with NVTA. Just kind of following up on the informal update that I gave you guys, I think a month or two ago, regarding the countywide active transportation plan that NVTA's recently kicked off. So we are conducting a countywide active transportation plan to bring together existing documents, including a pedestrian plan and a bicycle plan that were developed a number of years ago, into a single countywide kind of comprehensive document that can serve all of our local jurisdictions from American Canyon all the way to Calistoga, including the unincorporated county, for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'll go through the presentation. Please feel free to stop me if you have questions along the way. I think that's easier for me, and I can also take notes if you have questions that I need to follow up on after the fact. So a little bit about what is NVTA. So we are a long-term planning agency. We're what's called a joint powers authority. So we have members sitting on our board from each of the jurisdictions in Napa County. We develop long-range transportation plans We work with regional entities like the Metropolitan Transportation Commission for regional plans. In specific, Plan Bay Area is what that's called. We also coordinate funding from federal, regional, state, and local sources, including grant funds, programmatic funds, as well as we oversee Measure T, our countywide transportation sales tax measure. NVTA also operates the Vine transit system, and we do occasional public outreach and education to advance those kind of transportation planning and transit goals. And occasionally we deliver projects. And so this photo actually is part of the construction of the recently completed segment of the Napa Valley Vine Trail near Calistoga, putting down a unique material called Park Tread that kind of looks like dirt but acts a little bit more like asphalt. Pretty cool stuff. So when I said a countywide active transportation plan, it's helpful to kind of define our terms. So active transportation is really any non-motorized form of transportation. I think all of you guys know that. But it also includes e-bikes, scooters, other kinds of micro-mobility devices that are not a car. The types of facilities that we're talking about are crosswalks and sidewalks, bike lanes, paths and trails, and other corridors that might provide some kind of mobility or connectivity benefits to residents and users. And I also want to flag wheelchair users are obviously included in active transportation use as well. And so this work also ties into the Americans with Disabilities Act and making sure everybody in our community, regardless of their own abilities, can get where they want to go on foot or through another device. So an active transportation plan takes kind of a high-level view of how can we provide safe, high-quality, connected facilities for all of our local residents and visitors, identifies goals, metrics, policies, and programs that support that vision. We develop and implement local priorities and needs, along the lines of, again, how can we get people out there and walking and biking safely? And these kinds of plans are not only adopted by NVTA, but are also then adopted by each of our local jurisdictions. For this upcoming plan effort, we're anticipating that the City of American Canyon will adopt their own chapter of the plan into your existing general plan or your forthcoming new general plan. And so what that allows is for recommended facilities or programs to be conditioned for new development. So if you say we want to have a class 1 separated bike ped pathway along such and such street, and there's a new development that comes in that builds that street or improves that street, they can be conditioned, required to provide that improvement along with the rest of their development. So as I said, we just got the kind of the kickoff phase of this project underway. We're going to take about a year, 18 months at the most to complete all this work. The tasks you see there are kind of the key steps. They're not necessarily sequential, but they are the steps that we're going to undertake with our consultant team to complete this work. So kind of summer 24 and fall 24, the last few months, and now we're looking at what are our existing facilities? What bicycle facilities, pedestrian facilities do we have in all of our communities? I'm really excited. We're using a new consulting firm called Geomate out of Canada that is using aerial imagery to collect data and provide a GIS map of all of our existing pedestrian facilities countywide. So they can tell us not just where there are sidewalks, but how wide are those sidewalks and where are our crosswalks or other kinds of pedestrian amenities. So we're really excited to have that moving forward. Once we have those existing maps, we're also going to be developing a kind of standards toolbox so that we all have a shared understanding of when we talk about improvements, or particularly improvements for safety, what are we looking at? And so when we talk about speed reduction markings, or we talk about a curb extension or a bulb out, what exactly is that? And not just for the general public, but also for local jurisdiction staff, that we all kind of have a uniform set of terms countywide. So when you're looking at a class 3 bikeway in American Canyon, it looks identical to a Class 3 facility in Calistoga or in St. Helena. Over the summer of next year, we're going to be doing a lot of public outreach. We'll have a total of 5 public outreach meetings throughout the kind of spring through fall 2025 period. We will do at least 1 public meeting in American Canyon. We're still figuring out exactly when that's going to happen, but we'll update you along the way. And then we're expecting to have the plan approved sometime in fall 25 with formal adoption by the City of American Canyon in winter 25-26. So I wanted to go by a couple of the tasks and give you a bit more detail on exactly what those look like. So I talked about existing conditions, existing maps, and kind of those toolkit guidelines for what those facilities look like. And this is kind of small, so you don't have to read it now, but I'm happy to send you a version if you need it that's a bit more accessible. But what we want to do is build a map exactly where our sidewalks are, where are our crosswalks, where are the Class 2 bike lanes or the Class 1 separated bike ped facilities in each community, so we kind of know our starting point. We've got a baseline, and then to be able to build from that moving forward. The uniform standards, that toolbox that I talked about, again, is also really important, making sure we have consistent terminology and criteria that we're using in the development of not just identifying what's out there currently, but also what we're going to build in the future. As I said, we'll do a lot of public outreach and engagement. We do have a project website or microsite up now, and I'll have a URL and a QR code you can scan a little bit later to check that out. But we'll be doing public workshops, probably in a room like this, but we also want to get out in the community. So the Bicycle Coalition every year does their Bike Fest event in the city of Napa. We'll certainly be there talking to people at those kinds of events. We're planning to be at the Meet Me in the Street event that American Canyon does every year. So those kinds of events where local residents are already coming out. We want to make sure we're talking to folks about the plan, what their vision is as individuals who live in our communities is for future walking and biking. And then again, that kind of last step, once we've developed all those plans, we have a set of recommended facilities. We have a good sense of exactly what the timeline might be for development of some of those improvements. Then we get to actually adopting the plan. And that's kind of the last piece, but also the most important piece. So we'll have drafts along the way of various documents, and we'll certainly be sharing those with you at updates to this committee, as well as potentially updates to Planning Commission or City Council. So they're aware of kind of what we're doing and making sure that as we work closely with city staff, that city leadership can also weigh in and provide direction. So we expect to have a public draft of the final plan sometime in September-ish 2025, and then coming to the NVTA board in November, and then again adoption by the city sometime in early 26. So we've got a couple next steps on NVTA's side. As Erica mentioned, we just met with staff. Was that Monday or was that Friday? It was Friday, last Friday. Yeah, it all kind of blurs together. So again, we're working very closely with city staff to make sure that the plan that we're putting together for the city, that chapter of the plan, is reflective of the city's priorities. But there's also things that you can do in advance of NVTA releasing kind of component drafts of documents for the plan. The first thing is really looking at what existing plans are out there, making sure that you're familiar with things like the 2019 countywide bicycle plan and the chapter for American Canyon, the 2016 pedestrian plan, screenshots of which are on the screen here. The city has a draft general plan that I'm sure you've looked at a little bit already. So looking at what the kinds of programs and policies are in that document. And then other plans that may exist, and that's going to be very kind of jurisdiction specific. So for American Canyon, you have a local roadway safety plan, you've got the Broadway district specific plan, there's a traffic calming program that was adopted earlier this year, and all those things in some way are going to inform what the countywide active transportation plan and the American Canyon chapter of that plan look like. I promised you a URL for our project website. That is napaatplan.org. So you can go there. There's a great interactive map where you can drop little pins or points on a map, just like you would do in Google Maps, and then comment about things you like or love or wonder or just kind of curiosities or things that you want to see changed. And that kind of initial feedback is really important to get early in the planning process. It's a whole lot better to get that kind of feedback from the community now than it is 6 or 8 months from now when a lot of the kind of elements of the plan have already been baked. So one of the homework assignments that I'd ask for all of you to take on is write down that URL or enter it in your phone right now or scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, and then share that information with your networks, the people you know, whether that's on social media or at work or wherever. We're also reaching out to city staff, and hopefully we'll have additional information going out in the city's newsletters and social media feeds in the next number of days and weeks as well. But your input and engagement early on is really important to make sure that that plan overall is really responsive to the needs of the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions folks have, and thank you.
Are you also going to be bringing this to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, so the plan is that we will bring the plan to the Planning Commission at some point. I think exact dates are still up in the air, but probably sometime in either late spring or early summer of next year. We want to make sure that they're aware of the process, but we'll really follow the lead of city staff on exactly when that happens.
And do you foresee through this process a recommendation for a safer way to cross 29?
Yes, and so as I mentioned, there's a lot of plans out there right now. There's the Broadway specific plan, there's the city's general plan. NVTA has a lot of additional plans, including ones that address the 29 corridor. So we want to take into account what those existing plans say, and then see if there are appropriate ways to kind of build on those, or even just consolidate all that information from a bunch of different perspectives, right? Some of the plans may be more kind of auto-centric, more car-centric in terms of their focus or their priorities. But because this is an active transportation plan, we want to make sure we're looking at things from that walking, biking kinds of perspective. But the short answer is yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I've been involved in earlier versions, and I like the idea of getting ideas to you quickly about sections that need help. So probably some that the city is well aware of, but it'll be a good process. Thanks.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Hello? Oh, I see. I like the idea. It encourages exercise, and it's very environmentally friendly, especially for youth like me that can't drive. Well, I can drive, but some of my peers that cannot. I believe it allows them to get around safely. I think especially on the highway or the way that goes towards Safeway and the little plaza around that, it's very dangerous, and I think that safer options or safer bike lanes that way would be very pleasable for everybody too.
Hey, does this include any, and I imagine it would, just want to put it out there, Caltrans data? Highway?
So yes and no. So we will collect existing facility information on what's out there in terms of walking and biking infrastructure on Caltrans facilities, as well as on other facilities that aren't owned by a local jurisdiction. So in Napa State Hospital, we'll look at some of the approaches or entrances to those kinds of facilities. In Yountville, the Vets Home, California Boulevard, kind of going up the hill towards the home there. Neither NVTA nor the City of American Canyon have jurisdiction over or can control what Caltrans or other state agencies do on those facilities, but these kinds of documents can be a starting point to have a conversation, and they can also help inform other plans that either exist or are being updated. So Caltrans, for example, is in the middle of updating their District 4, which is the 9-county Bay Area, their District 4 bike plan. And so if we can make recommendations in the countywide active transportation plan that, go above and beyond what might be out there in Caltrans's brain already, then that can help inform other plans and make sure when projects do move forward that they can incorporate those kinds of recommendations or facilities.
Getting in early again.
Hmm?
I said getting in early.
Yeah, and getting in early is really
Input
important.
early.
Yeah, and I'll also note, NVTA does have a monthly meeting with Caltrans, and so we do try to coordinate with them and other agencies as much as possible. So when they're out there doing repaving projects or striping projects, that we can say, hey, this is in our local plan, can you make sure to include X, Y, Z? Not always something we can do, but something we certainly advocate for.
Okay. And then I had one question about, so I scanned the QR code, and the way this app works. So if I am curious about maybe getting like a in terms of input, say like a bike path up American Canyon Road to
Yeah.
get to the highway. So that could be within this app. Where I could-
Absolutely. So you could just take one of those pins at the top and kind of drag it to wherever you think is appropriate. The map wasn't designed to do lines or corridors, so just dropping a pin somewhere on that road and then providing that comment is really helpful.
Well, I will. I'll just do
Great.
it after this.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask city staff, Erica, are there currently any plans to improve the crossings at American Canyon Road and Donaldson of Highway 29? Because there's bike paths there, but they're just scary. Or
They-
bike lanes.
Probably rolled into the current project that's underway, because there's already the Highway 29 improvement plan that's in the preliminary right-of-way environmental and design. So, and that includes improvements at the roundabouts and
Oh, with the roundabouts, okay. But, yeah, so we're not going to do anything until that is implemented.
yeah.
Okay, great. I can still put pins there, though. I can still put pins on the map, though.
Please
You
do.
can definitely, I think that would help
Yeah.
the case. I would definitely,
Yeah, because it's
we need
scary.
improvements along this corridor.
Yeah,
You tried walking across Highway 29 at the signals, I mean, even with leading pedestrian intervals, I think it's just still, the stress is high.
yeah. And as a bicyclist, there's no way I'm going to ride on that road. I'm going to be sidewalking and crosswalks, so,
Yeah.
thanks.
Hey, Patrick.
Yes.
I was driving home from Napa on 29, and I noticed past the Saskell interchange there's some new striping, and it looks like some new construction. And it's on the side of the highway, so I'm thinking it's obviously Caltrans. And I was wondering, did they come along and just do that, or is that part of the Saskell interchange project, and will it continue any further south?
Yeah, so Caltrans has been doing some work on 29 from the, Vallejo limits all the way up to Calistoga. Most of that work is rumble strips and shoulder improvements for safety purposes. And we can certainly share more details about exactly what the scope of that project is. My assumption is that if you were heading south on 29 near the Saskell Junction roundabouts, that's probably the restriping that's being conducted as part of that lane merge south of the project. And so that would be Gelati, who's our lead contractor for the Saskell Junction project, completing the work to do lane improvements for the merge south of there.
So that was the part of the plan of the Saskell interchange.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and I'll just comment on it. The alternative is to come down Devlin, and Devlin's, the class 2 is so narrow. I haven't ridden this yet, but I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking I would go this way on the highway, even though it's right there, and even though Paul Shapiro was killed just within the part of the trail I'm talking about, because a lady ran off the road and got him. But it looks pretty nice. It looks safer than Devlin, so let's just say that. And I know we'll get Devlin done eventually, and then maybe that then that would be the safest route. But in the meantime, this looks safer than what was there. And for so many years, riding on Highway 29, when you're riding in the gravel, and the grade is bad, there's potholes, and the cars are going by at 60, that's really, really unsafe. So this looks like quite an improvement for that section.
Yeah, and building off of your comments, I would say if you have comments about any area outside of the city of American Canyon, if it's unincorporated county or even another jurisdiction, please feel free to put those points on the map as well. Don't feel restricted just to American Canyon. And then a last comment, if there aren't any more questions from the commission, is building on Erica's earlier comments about bike ped counting. NVTA does have a permanent bike ped counter program that we launched earlier this year. And so we are planning to put in one bike ped counter somewhere in American Canyon in early 2025. She had mentioned a couple of possible locations. One is Wetlands Edge south of Eucalyptus along that existing Class 1 facility. The other would be Newell north of Donaldson, kind of approaching, is it Malin? Somewhere again along that section of the new Class 1 for kind of the Newell extension segment. So if there are other ideas or comments you have about that, certainly would appreciate any feedback, and we'll work with staff to get that project underway early next year.
And is our means of comment to go to the website and comment?
Yeah,
or
please
go
feel
to-
free to comment on the website, or you've got my email or phone number on the slide here, so please feel free to send me an email or give me a call.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
I have two questions, one for
Of
you
course.
about the bike ped. So does it count bikes versus peds, or is it just?
It does, yeah. So we put in a new bike ped counter by a company called EcoCounter just last week in the city of Napa. And what it's able to do is count not just bicyclists and pedestrians, but also identify scooters. And it does that with both an infrared beam across the trail that identifies when a pedestrian is going by, as well as magnetic loops of wire in the pavement itself that can detect not just the type of bicycle or scooter that's being used, but also the direction of movement and the speed of the user. So we're really excited to be able to collect that data. And I often get asked, okay, so this is great to have more data, but why spend the money? And there's a couple answers, but the one that I always come back to is, well, if we're going to spend more money for more bike and ped facilities and more infrastructure down the road, we need to know how many people are using what we already have. And so particularly for, on the Newell side of things, if you have a new development going in, we'd love to see kind of before or early on when people are moving in, what the numbers look like, and then as that project develops over the next number of years, does that number go up? And so that's one of the things we're excited about with the Napa installation is there's a affordable housing development that's planned to go in right next to where the counter is located. And so once that's completed, we'll be able to see how does that change the number of people who are using this facility. We expect it'll go up by how much? And then that can help inform future investments by our local communities.
And can it differentiate about dogs?
It can't count dogs.
So is this a pedestrian?
No. So if the dog is tall enough to break the infrared beam, which I think is at like 2.5 feet, 3 feet off the ground. So if you've got a Great Dane, it'd probably count that as a pedestrian. But if you have a little poodle, or a Welsh Corgi, probably not.
Would it count it as two pedestrians?
Really skinny furry legs.
Yeah.
And how long do you have the meter in place?
They are permanent,
Permanent.
so indefinitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Batteries have to be replaced every year or 18 months, but the counters themselves are permanent. And there are a number of counters that were installed as part of the Vine Trail project that have been in place for 5-6 years or more. And so those kind of longitudinal analyses can be really valuable to see what are the long-term trends in use of the facility.
I'm wondering, there's a lot of bike and ped activity
Mhm.
around the wetlands. And I wouldn't be surprised if most of the bike and ped going down that Class 1 trail are going into the wetlands trail system. So I don't know if it makes sense to be monitoring the trail system. I don't know if that gives you any information that would help with grant funding. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about this.
Or maybe even the new section that just got built, the connection that the new development, one of the commercial developments on Commerce completed the connection to Eucalyptus at Wetlands at the trailhead, maybe a little further up from Napa Junction to see how many people are actually going north and south, because the Green Island Road Class 1 trail is going to be going in next year. So, I mean, to see how many more people are bicycling back and forth on Commerce and or walking, because you're going to have a complete trail. And there's going to be a portion that'll be on Commerce, a Class 2 version or maybe a Class 4. on Commerce, but it'll be kind of neat to see how many more bicyclists and walkers you'll get once that section is completed. So maybe north of Eucalyptus would be a good idea. I'm just,
Yeah, there's a whole lot of different, you could identify 50 locations.
Yeah.
It's, exactly, yeah. And because this is a permanent installation, our thinking is really that you want to look at what are facilities either that have a lot of use now that you want to quantify, whether it's for future grants or, for other purposes, or that might have a significant change in use due to some future project. So, you could look at American Canyon Road east-west, and once the SR29 project goes in and makes that crossing much more comfortable and safe, does the usership go up there? Just I'm kind of spitballing here, but there could be arguments for a lot of different locations.
Right.
But I think what we're looking for now is just any initial feedback from commissioners in terms of, locations you think might be valuable, and then NVTA staff and city staff can then take that information and again, decide on what the correct location is for this one installation that we're planning for next year.
Is that counter data available, the raw data, or is it or summarized on your website, or is it only for planning purposes?
We don't have it public facing at this point in time. That's something we'd like to do down the road. But if we do get a request for that data, we can certainly provide it. It is public data under, Freedom of Information Act type requests. So,
Great, thanks.
yeah. Thank you all very much.
Erica, so I have two questions for you. One is, can we get a link to the Caltrans Highway 29 plan? And I think maybe we already have it, but I just want to be able to look at the map.
sure, it's currently on the MVTA's website, but we can certainly.
Oh,
send it.
okay,
Oh,
great.
yeah,
I can
they
search
have
there.
all the updates on there. I'm not sure if it's been recently updated. Do you know?
Well, again, we're right now in environmental.
Yeah.
So the next big tranche of updates will be kind of once that process gets completed in the next 12 months-ish, 18 months, something. I think that's the rough timeline. But what you can look at now are kind of what the preliminary plans were prior to doing the environmental analysis. And then environmental, as you know, will have a number of alternatives, including not building the project at all.
Right.
And that'll bring design a little bit further along than the preliminary design that was conducted earlier.
Which website was that, Erica?
Highway 29.
Which website was
Napa
that?
Valley Transportation Authority,
MVTA?
MVTA, yes.
I can certainly send Erica an updated link or staff and have them circulate it to all of
Okay.
you, if that's helpful.
I keep over analyzing where this bike ped meter should go, so I think I'll leave it up to Erica to figure it out.
I've also checked in with city staff just to check, just to see preference, because a part of the thing is they provide it and we have to install it. So there's two steps to it. Once we did, well, 3 steps: make a decision on the location, being provided the materials, and then the city funding the installation of it.
Did we have to buy it, city?
And so following the model that we utilized with the city of Napa, NVTA would purchase the hardware and the data subscription to kind of power the device long term, and then rely on the city to do the installation.
Cool.
These devices run anywhere from kind of $6,000 to $10,000, depending upon the functionality and features.
Good question, Nance.
I got one question.
Yeah.
Have you guys considered gleaming any information from like some of the workout apps like iFit or Strava?
Yeah.
Seems like you can get a lot from those.
I'm going to go back to this task. So we do have a task under future demand assessment that will look at big data collected from a variety of sources. Some of that historically has been cell phone data that was publicly available. Things like Strava or iFit can be other data sources that are sold by data brokers. And we can use that information to identify for shorter trips that might be possible to be done walking and biking, 2-3 miles or less. Where are people coming from? Where are they going to? So what we call origin destination mapping. And then we can look at, okay, if we have X number of trips, we assume 10% of them can be transitioned in some way from vehicle trips to walking and biking, then where might the best locations be for those improvements in infrastructure? So we're not just kind of spitballing where new facilities or improved facilities might need to go, but we're actually relying on that data to make those informed choices.
It's good to hear.
I'm curious about another section of the trail, the one that will connect from Sheehy Court, the NVTA yard to Napa Sanitation. Do you know when that construction is going to happen?
That is a longer-term project that's being led by the Napa Valley Vine Trail Coalition. So I wouldn't want to speak too much about their timeline and priorities, but those kinds of long-term proposed corridor improvements will be certainly in the plan. And we'll work with those project proponents or partners to identify kind of what the realistic time frame is and put that into the plan. But there's going to be dozens of such locations in the plan, so that one specifically I don't want to speak to.
Thank you.
And Patrick, I think you know this, but the Vine Trail just applied for a grant, a PCA grant, for the study from Susquel Ferry Road down to Airport Boulevard. So that's the one, the Devlin, that'll go on the other side of the eucalyptus tree. So I haven't heard the status of the grant, but it was applied for like within the last month or so. So it's a planning, I think it's a planning grant.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to open public comment for items not on the agenda.
Do we have anybody in the room who would like to make public comment? Seeing none, I will go to Zoom, and there is nobody on Zoom, so we have no public comment.
Okay, public comment closed. All right. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to accept?
I have a question. So on the item about the Newell Management Plan, I provided some written comments that I handed to everybody, and I meant to email it to Ally. Should we put that into the minutes that a commissioner brought written comments, or is that not?
Minutes are action minutes only, so we
Okay.
only record items that are action
Okay.
at the. at
So the
meeting,
reference to written comments is public comments, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. I move to approve.
Second? Okay, roll call, please.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Barry Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Scott Artis is absent, Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes.
Okay.
CJ, I think because you weren't here last time, you didn't get asked to vote. I think that's what that was, right?
Youth
I
commissioners
see.
don't vote.
Youth commissioners don't vote?
No.
Learn something new every day.
Okay, moving on to management and staff oral reports. We have a bicycle-friendly community application update from the Napa County Bicycle Coalition.
Thank you. We have Kara Varner coming up. I think she's Executive Director is her title of the Napa Bicycle Coalition to provide you an update this evening. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I did have some slides. I don't know if you're able to pull them up.
David's gonna.
Is this your presentation, maybe?
Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. And you can advance the slides by using the arrow or the
Okay, good evening, OSATS commissioners. It's nice to see you again. As you know, applying for a designation under the League of American Bicyclists Bicycle Friendly Communities program is something that's on the work plan this year and something that the city and the Bike Coalition are partnering on to complete. Many more partners, and we'll get into that too, but I wanted to give you an update on where we are in that application process and also help you understand kind of what it is. So the application is it's kind of long. It's about 90 pages when you put it into a Word document. It's asking questions that it wants very specific answers to. Yes, no, this percentage, this many. It's not a public input process in the way that like the local roadway safety plan might have had, or even the active transportation plan is asking for your input. Not that input isn't also important, especially when we get some data in there. We're hoping to come back and share that and get more eyes and more minds kind of working on it. But it's a questionnaire essentially in its heart, and so it's about providing very specific information. It's laid out according to the E's. The E's are popular. Everyone has sort of a slightly different set of E's when it comes to traffic safety and active transportation. In the bicycle friendly communities application, let me advance this. The E's are equity and accessibility. So they want a bicycle friendly community for everyone, and they're looking at our community set up to provide that for everyone, and not sort of just the strong, fearless riders, for example. Engineering, creating safe and convenient places to ride and to park a bike in this case. And engineering is probably what you think a lot of when you think of how can we make the streets safer, bike lanes, bulb outs, class 1 paths, for example. But there are other elements to a bicycle-friendly community as well. So education, giving people of all ages and abilities the skills and confidence to ride. And that's a lot of the work that the Bike Coalition is doing here in American Canyon. We'll also be reaching out to the police department to find out more about what they're doing too. Encouragement, creating a strong bike culture that welcomes and celebrates bicycling. So they ask about things like Bike to Work Day and bike fests and lots of other things. And then evaluation and planning for bicycling as a safe and viable transportation option. So they're looking at, have you planned, are you implementing certain plans? Do you have certain policies that would support a bike-friendly community? And those are kind of the large buckets. There's also a whole just like demographic, like who and what is this community and what comprises this community. So because it's pretty highly technical and it also is somewhat sprawling, it can be hard to sort of distill it down into like, oh, if we meet these things, then we're a bronze level or we're a silver level or we're a gold or even platinum. But what I can say is that they have some kind of typical hallmarks, and those things are probably going to change some depending on the character of the community, the size of the community, and other things. So this changes from time to time, but I wanted to just kind of give you an example of a few metrics that stand out for a gold level bicycle friendly community. So on the engineering side, things like arterial and major collector streets with bike lanes, 65% of them have bike lanes, 65% or more. Total bicycle network mileage to total road network mileage, 43%. So you have something of a bicycle network on 43% of your road network. And then from there, it gets a little less helpful. Public outreach, public education outreach, very good. They don't say what very good is. They're not like as totally transparent in that. But I won't go through every one of these, but I wanted you to have a sense of the different key indicators that they're looking at to set a gold level status. I'll also say, I think we talked about this before, but right now in Napa County, City of Napa is the only one with a distinction, and they have a bronze distinction. It's also the case that it is not at all uncommon for communities to apply and not get a distinction on their first application, but they still get a roadmap. They still get a lot of input and help in terms of how to shift that and get there the next time. So even if American Canyon doesn't get that designation, there will be a value add in the process. So the key partners on this in our roles, the Bike Coalition, we're going to be the primary driver, coordinator, and developer. Yes, thank you. The City of American Canyon is the other primary partner. They're the ones under whom the application is submitted, and they hold a lot of the information as well, so we're partnering very much. The OSATS Commission will also be a primary partner. I hope to come back and be able to present a couple more times at least about this. And then we have other partners like the Napa Valley Transportation Authority, Napa Valley Vine Trail, other departments within the city, not just Public Works, but police department, planning, et cetera. And anyone else who, we think might be helpful. So we're gonna, it's sort of a investigative process. So if we find that someone doesn't hold information we think that they do, then we're gonna find the folks who do. Or we're going to go out and get it ourselves, which some of you have helped to do already. So more on that in a minute. Timeline-wise, the application is due in June, but we want to submit it before June. So we developed a timeline consistent with that. The kickoff and preparation was August to October. And during that time, we really kind of looked at what are the elements, what data do we know exists, what data might be in the process of being gathered right now, what data do we need to make sure we go out and get ourselves, who are the primary partners, what are the phases, and et cetera. So we've done that, and we've had 2 initial meetings already with Director Almond-Smithies. And then starting now and through February is when we're really going to populate that application. So that's the bulk of the footwork and the work. We want to bring that for review in March, send it out to key partners and stakeholders. And then we want to submit in April, an approved application. After a application is submitted, the league then asks the city and others to administer a survey asking for input on what it's like to ride a bike in American Canyon, for example. So there will be a survey that's shared that is the League of American Bicyclists survey, not our survey or the city's, but it will go out to help kind of inform that application, just get that broad. That's really where the sort of stakeholder and local input is really key and helpful. And then we should receive, I think, oops, I didn't put it on here. I think we receive a designation or some sort of indicator of that once the survey is done. And so then I'm hoping to debrief with the city in November or December and think about next steps. So did we get it? Did we not? What did it say? Et cetera. And if that timeline's not right, then we will debrief later, but yes. Okay, so I wanted to kind of further break down the steps of the populating the application, because that's a 4-month period, and it's kind of the bulk of the work. So we've done step number 1, which was to determine what data we needed to gather ourselves and what can be gathered through partners. By December 1st, we want to set meetings with all the partners to gather that data. So we'll be reaching out, for example, to NVTA about the transit portion. There's a portion that really focuses on how bikes connect and work with transit. By January 31st, we want to populate all aspects of the application that do not require partner involvement. So that's stuff that we can get ourselves. Oh, yeah. There we go. Thank you. And then by the end of, hold on, I just looked up and lost my place. Yes, also by January 31st, we want to review NVTA's existing facilities and bike parking audit data and include that in the application as well, which fits with their timeline for their active transportation plan. By the end of February, we want to have everything populated, everything that's needed, and then start coming back out for review, input. Did we miss something? Is there something we didn't think of? Someone we should have talked to that we didn't? And I'm hoping to come back to this committee, if it fits with Director Smithies' timeline, in January and in March to just touch base, present what we've gathered, ask any questions that might be out there. Yeah. Okay, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Commissioner Clinton McClinton Horner and Matson, who helped with the bike parking audit. So what happened was we were really hoping that bike parking could be mapped and included in the active transportation update in a way that it hasn't been before. But that means going out and identifying all of the bike parking actually in the county. But it's also needed for this application because they ask about how many of our bike racks are compliant with ABPBP, I think it is. Don't make me say what that is. American. Thank you. So they're really, they're kind of the standard that the Bike Friendly Communities application uses to say this is appropriate and good bike parking. So in order to be able to say what percentage that is, we had to know what was out there. So Commissioner Matson we kind of broke it into quadrants, and Commissioner Matson took this, the southeast quadrant, so sort of south of American Canyon Road, east of 29, and then Commissioner McClinton Horner took the northeast side, so from American Canyon Road all the way up to like, you know, that Taco Bell area essentially. And then one of our wonderful volunteers, TC Holsey, took the southwest quadrant, and then Tammy Wong, who I'm sure you all know, took the northwest quadrant. And we got it done. And then TC did a lot of the fill-in too between kind of like eucalyptus and north. So thank you for already being a part of this process. We certainly couldn't have done it without you. I don't know yet how many bike racks were. Do you happen to know? Were noted so far. I know TC did the most of any volunteer, and I think he had like 132. And I mean, you guys can talk about it, but they went out with a super cool app that MVTA provided and took photos of each, hit a map to show where the GIS location was, described it, clicked some drop-down questionnaires about it for every bike rack that was in their section. So, so thank you.
I'm sorry, is that just in the city of American Canyon? Oh, it's countywide.
The Bike Coalition did it countywide, but we actually did it a little more extensively in American Canyon because we were trying to capture private racks and not just publicly accessible racks. So it was a little bit of a deeper pass, but.
And I was really disappointed that I only found 3.
Yeah.
Oh, there were parks and, you know, apartment complexes and so.
Yeah.
Sounds like Tara won between the two of us. What, you said 22?
20-something, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I found 3 and they were just all on one street.
Wow.
You said the northwest quadrant had that was TC, and there was over 100?
No, Northwest was Tammy Wong.
Oh, okay. I thought you said TC.
More than that quadrant, his quadrant.
Other areas.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He did a lot of areas too. Yeah, no, 132 weren't in that little quadrant. No, that was like, he did like county. Oh, no.
Yeah.
That would be interesting though. Yeah, I had a similar experience. I took a district, a political district, a city council district in Napa, and I don't know, it took me maybe 3.5 or 4 hours, and I think I only got 22 as well, something around that. And I thought it would take a lot longer, but it just didn't because there weren't as many as I thought there might be. So it's a good thing. Now we can say for sure, but.
Yeah, there was definitely more than I thought there would be, but yeah, it was nice.
Well, that's good.
Like, yeah, we actually have some decent bike parking.
Nice. That's a great
I was
thing.
like, we need more.
Yeah. So, any questions at this point on where we are so
I
far?
have a question on the schedule to meet with OSATs.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically, we don't meet in January usually because it's like the very first week. So we might have to have a special meeting.
Or we could probably push it to a different month if we have to. If February works for Kara or.
Yeah, those were just estimates, and I knew that even if you did meet, it might be that like Parks and Recs had a big item that month. So mostly I just want to kind of get back in once we have more progress done on the application. And so maybe we split the difference and do it in February and we just take longer or something. So I can check in with you on that if that's okay.
And because I know we have a schedule, so we'll have to look at what works.
Okay.
We do have one more meeting this year. It's in December, but otherwise it's the next meeting, but it's in February. Usually I think it was pretty tradition that we cancel the first meetings in January.
Yeah. Okay. So we could talk about February or March. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question or comment, actually. When we use the NVTA, the bicycle plan data, some of it's a little bit outdated already. I just want to make sure we're not just using the document, that we're getting feet on the ground or wheels on the ground. Okay.
Yeah, their consultants are doing the existing facilities right now, right? And so I think it was the end of December where they're shooting to have that. And so we'll be able to use the new data that they have gathered. Yeah.
And specifically, I think it's the section, the Devlin, north of Commerce, Devlin section, I think isn't on there.
Yeah.
Or something else, I don't remember what it was. But
A bunch of new striping and lane striping that we didn't have before, like Donaldson.
Yeah.
And Silver
Well,
Oak
in
Trail.
Benton, I mean,
A bunch of places.
Benton's great.
Anything done since summer 2019 will not be in that
Right.
database.
Okay.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
We're capturing all that.
yeah, through the consultant, okay.
Yeah.
And also, I was curious about the league survey. How does that get pushed out? Is that something the city?
That's something primarily the city would do, but I think then the request would be to go through your own networks and push it out as much as you can on your own personal social medias or in associations or workplaces that you're a part of, just anywhere, any input you could possibly get. We'll send it out in our newsletter as well, and we'll post it on our social media. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that Meet Me in the Street, the NVTA will be having a booth to push out their stuff, so we could probably,
Yeah, if the
Back on
timing
that.
aligns.
I don't think it aligns because the first meet in the street is in June, and when's this due?
This is, we want to submit in April, so yeah, actually that wouldn't, yeah.
but you have July through September for the league survey, which fits totally with.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's after. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility. I haven't reviewed the survey, so I don't know if it's like as appropriate for like a, but it might be. It could be that we could get paper copies out there and then enter it. But it's definitely something we'll dive into when we get closer to the time. And it's a good reminder that that event exists because I know it's
That
really
would grab a lot of
popular.
people.
Yeah.
Then you can ask commissioners to help be there and.
Commissioner Mintillar?
Oh,
Did
we
I
have
say it
lots
right?
of clipboards.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So there was a portion that you talked about public education outreach. I have a little brother myself, and I was wondering, are you going to like teach him how to bike, or what is the how does
Yeah.
that work?
So the Bike Coalition is the lead on the Safe Routes to School partnership in Napa County, and under a grant we have in partnership with Napa Police Department and American County Police Department, we are able to go into 4th and 5th grades and provide over 2 days, 90 minutes of in-class bike safety education and ped safety education. And then we come the next day and we bring a fleet of bikes and scooters and we do on-bike skill building and practice. So we don't do a learn to ride class, but we do have options for folks. Like if they're not riding, they can still get the information and learn how to kind of navigate streets and traffic on 2 wheels. And it's really fun, and we do it in the elementary schools here.
Oh wow, cool. I was about to ask as well if you guys did scooters too, because a lot of my friends, I asked them if they wanted to do electric bikes, and they were like, I don't know about electric bikes, but electric scooters would be cool too.
Yeah, we definitely do include scooters, and we don't do electric anything. At the 4th and 5th grade level, we're not bringing electric equipment. We did just receive a grant to extend our education a little bit to teens and young adults on e-biking. So that will come in the future, but we're pretty excited about that so that we can what we're hoping is we lay that foundation in 4th and 5th grade, and then we kind of hit it again maybe in 7th and 9th, when e-biking is becoming, I think, more a viable option for older youth and more interesting to them as well. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And we hand out helmets too for youth who don't have them. Yeah.
Just a comment. I'm noticing younger kids now on scooters than I've noticed before. So I don't know their ages, but I'm thinking 9, 10, 11. I'm seeing kids on electric scooters
Yeah.
buzzing around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We need to wait until they're teens to start addressing that. But it sounds like you address it in the Safe Routes to School, even though they may not be riding the electric scooters, or you don't provide those, or how's that work?
Yeah. So riding a regular scooter and riding an electric scooter, there's a lot of similarities there. It's not the same thing, but at that level, we're really just teaching a lot of traffic safety. And so some of that skill and some of the skill building, the balance and whatnot is helpful either way, whether it's electric or not. So yeah, but the grant that we got is really specific to e-bikes. It's not specific to e-scooters. Still a lot of crossover in the education.
Where does that grant come from?
Office of Traffic Safety.
From the state?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder is anybody lobbying them to include e-bikes or e-scooters in that? I mean, you just apply for the grant, but what's the way to go around and tell them, same thing I just told you, that, hey, I'm seeing younger kids here, so can you make a grant available to Napa Bike Coalition that would include that?
I think really anyone is free to contact them. I mean, their offices are in Sacramento. OTS, Office of Traffic Safety, they have a website with contact information, so that would be a way to reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any more comments?
Looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been wanting to do this for I don't know how many years, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Excited it's really happening.
Me too. Thank you for partnering on it and your interest.
I think I do have a question. I don't know if this is completely relevant. I guess it's to the education portion of what you're talking about. And it's triggered by what Barry just said. I've noticed a lot of like high school kids riding e-bicycles, like class 3, 35 mile an hour. Is it
No, 28.
28?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them go a little faster. I know they do.
No, they don't.
Those are called e-motorcycles.
Well, they're not quite motorcycles. I mean, they're folding bikes, kind of goofy looking, big batteries.
It's the way this.
Yeah, so 28 miles an hour, even that. I noticed a lot of high school kids riding to high school. And they're, they have blinkers, they have brake lights. My nephew's got one. You guys, I mean, that's what I think I was hearing. You guys address that in terms of education and trying to.
Well, we address safe ways to ride a bicycle, and that would apply to riding an e-bicycle as well. So in the 4th and 5th grade education, we're not focusing. There are some elements of an e-bike that I think deserve their own kind of caution and study. We're not doing that in the 4th or 5th grade. I mean, to be honest, we're lucky to get 90 minutes in class and an extra 45. I mean, that the schools give us that is amazing. And so we really do cover as much as we possibly can in terms of safety fundamentals. But it's not enough time to kind of delve more specifically into e-bikes, and a lot of students don't have them at that age. What I can say is that, I mean, this is a little separate, but we are currently participating in a statewide group to look at e-bike policies and also just kind of a media response, because we continue to see that there's a lot of misinformation. So there are bicycle companies that are selling e-bikes that are actually e-scooters, or they're called out-of-class e-bikes, and parents don't know. They think they're getting an e-bike and it's fine, and they just have to flip a switch, and like you can't enforce that, right? You can't see what it is. But I was kind of chuckling to myself when I said that's an e-motorcycle, because that's actually what we're trying to help people understand, that if they're riding it out of class, if they're still getting a pedal assist after higher than 20 miles per hour, that is an e-motorcycle. That's not an e-bike anymore. That's not an e-bike. So, and then there are things people can do to modify them. And, we see this issue being a bigger thing in much more affluent communities, like in Marin and in Newport Beach and Carlsbad, and places where parents can buy $5,000 to $10,000 e-bikes for their youth. But there are some pilots happening. There's one, and because of this, there's a pilot happening in Marin. And I can't remember all the specifics about it. I think that there's like an age limit and a helmet. No, the helmet thing would apply anyway. But I think the world is grappling with this, right? Like, how do we recognize and take advantage of the promise of e-bikes and how much that opens up biking to more people and how much of a mode shift that can offer without then opening the door on things that will make that more complicated and unsafe.
And admittedly, I'm pretty unaware of where these kids should be riding. Is it in the street, in the bike lane, probably not on the sidewalk? And they don't have to be $10,000 bikes. These are like, straight out off of Amazon for less than $1,000, and they do 28 miles an hour.
Yeah. So, okay. So a couple things. So it's a bike, right? So you want to ride it in all of the ways that you would ride a bicycle. So on the street, in a bike lane. We don't recommend always that people ride on the sidewalk. There are areas where it's illegal. There are areas where it's not. So it depends. But safety-wise, we really recommend not being on a sidewalk, especially if you're faster moving, like you might be on an e-bike. But the 28 miles an hour thing, I mean, I have a class 3 e-bike that goes to 28. I don't think I've ever gotten it to 28. Like, it's not as if you so the class 3s don't have a throttle. It's pedal assist. So you really have to work at it to get it that high. And I think I see the fastest kind of going e-bikes on places like the Vine Trail, where you do have that like wide open stretch. But I don't see people going that fast in city roads. Not that, I mean, I'm sure there's an exception here or there. But the data they do have so far shows that e-bikes aren't going vastly faster. It's a new, they're newly studying it, and new information is going to come out all the time, but it's like a couple of miles an hour faster. And that certainly tracks with my personal experience, but I'm just one person.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you guys are fully aware. You see it coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're trying to get ahead of some of the more damaging stuff that's coming out of certain places, too.
So I'm seeing here in the 5 E's of BFCs, bicycle friendly communities, education is one of the 5 E's, giving people of all ages and abilities, skills, and confidence to ride. And I'm thinking that since we talked about the active transportation plan, the countywide active transportation plan, I seem to recall from previous plans that education and procedures and policies were part of that plan. Is that something you guys recall, that within the active, it's not just maps of where you can go. There's sections in there that talk about riding safely and and these kinds of things. So that we might have some opportunity to make comments in that way, or your planners may be ahead of us on it, and that would also be in there too. Good. Thank you.
Okay, no more comments, questions? Nope.
Just, can I say one more plug to read the American Canyon Bike Plan from 2019 if you haven't already, because it'll be really great groundwork for both this and the new plan.
And it's not very long.
It's not very long.
It's a few pages.
That's true.
Yeah.
We can fix that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I want to thank both Kara and Patrick for coming tonight to give, because the timing's perfect for both of these being debuted, and appreciate their help. And I'm so excited that we're going to have a combined plan that also includes bike racks citywide, because that comes up quite a bit. I worked for a city that had that. They were the only one in the county, Sonoma County, that had that. And it's the first time I've heard about it in over 10 years, so it's great. Napa County's getting that finally.
Yay. All right, thank you. And nothing else from you, right?
That's it for this evening. I don't have any updates other than if you haven't seen new open spaces, new parking lot. The paving was completed yesterday. It looks beautiful. Striping will come next, and there's some other cleanup, but it's fantastic.
I have a couple announcements. We do announcements. We've always done announcements.
Barry has a couple announcements. I mean, Commissioner Mattson,
So-
Christian.
The RCD, the Resource Conservation District, is going to put on a watershed symposium on December 5th at Copia up in Napa. The tickets are like $85. There's probably ways you can, if you can't afford it, that they can help you. But they used to do this watershed symposium. It's all things water in Napa County. So that falls into our bailiwick, I think. December 5th at Copia.
I'll be there on the job.
Oh, good. For Napa San, huh? And the other thing is there's going to be a winged migration festival on Mare Island on February 1st and 2nd. So this is the new iteration of what was the Flyway Festival. So for years and years there was a Flyway. It's a birding festival on Mare Island in the old warehouses. Myrna Hayes used to run it. And Myrna has moved on, but it's being taken on by some folks in Vallejo. Teresa Kerr is one of them. I think she's a staff field rep for Bill Dodd. And so they do field trips. They'll have a facility where they're at the warehouse. There'll be booths and things like that. They always have a lot of people selling binoculars and things like that. But all things birding. It's pretty cool, and it ties in with what we do here because at one of those years, there was a split-off group that came up here and did sort of a bird festival here in American Canyon. And Mark Joseph has always been trying to get a duck festival up here. But we've talked to ACCPF about, joint things, because it really does fall into that we're a part of it. And they would do a lot of their field trips here in our wetlands because that was very popular to them. So some opportunities for collaboration. If you have any ideas, or if this one doesn't cost $85. This one is free to go, unless some of the trips may be if they're out on a boat on the water like that they might charge you. But anyway, it's right next door, and it kind of ties into what we do too. So winged migration instead of Flyway Festival, but kind of the same model.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else?
I did want to say, which you reminded me, it does look really good up there. Newell parking lot. I've been watching the whole thing happen, and I'm pretty excited to go park my car there. No, I never park there, but for some reason, what's that? God, no, I wouldn't leave that alone anywhere in the
I
city.
don't think the bike racks have been put in yet, right? That's
Yeah, what
after
gives?
that.
No, it looks fantastic.
We're not there on the survey.
I have one question about it. Does from the parking lot to the gate, that does get some kind of tread, some kind of walkway? Looks like they started something like maybe it's just AB.
So the actual trail, once you go to the trail, that's going to be the compacted AB up through that section. That was originally part of the project, was to go all the way up to
That's
the
what I
first
thought I
gate.
heard.
But this was the extent we could because there's acquisition still needed to go through.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So that's what we agreed to with the state to move forward with the amount of funding we had from the state's grant. It was a small grant. There will be also a water bottle filling station. I don't think you guys remember that or not. That line's in. I was asking about that yesterday, and it's in. So
It's so hot out there in the summer.
it is. So
Is AB the road bed?
yes.
It's what they put underneath before they put the asphalt on a road.
Aggregate base.
Yeah. And so that's what it's going to be, AB?
Yeah, it's already there. So if you've been walking around it,
Parking lot, but you're going to do that all the way up to the barn, right?
no.
At some
But
point?
what's out there? Yeah, at some point. Right now, what you see out there is what you're going to get as far as the trail.
Okay, cool.
The project's not done yet, but it's not going to be concrete.
Thank you.
The last thing I was going to say about it is the kiosk, the information booth. Somebody tagged that a long time ago, and then Barry and myself, with the permission from Parks Department, tried to clean it up, and the plexiglass in particular is pretty ratty. I
Let's
don't know
just
if you
replace
guys-
it.
What's that?
It needs to be replaced.
It needs to be replaced. I mean, it looks so good up there right now, and then you have this really tattered piece of plastic holding some old maps in.
I was talking that with Director Ikeda yesterday about what are the plans. I remember that someone had come across as an Eagle Scout was planning on maybe redoing that for us. I don't know if that's come. I don't think it's come to fruition. But also, Jeffrey, the open space coordinator for Jeffrey Freed, that's part of the Parks and Recreation. He's come up with some great. He has a great outlet for change or buying interpretive signage and also elements for our outdoor education project. That's supposedly we're gonna get our plans either late this week or early next week to go out to bid and advertisement. But he's found some great a great contractor or service provider for that kind of element. So Director Ikeda is probably going to be tapping him to see what kind of kiosk replacement we can get, and maybe bring that back to for interpretation here or review here and feedback. So
Do you think this might get done before like the ribbon cutting or after?
we can plant a seed.
That'd be awesome.
Do we have a date for the ribbon cutting?
No date for the ribbon cutting. We just got paving done yesterday. We're just excited that it's done before the rains really came. So there's still concrete to pour along the frontage, so there's still some additional work, but some of the heavy lifting is done. There's still gates to be added, so that we don't have barricades out front with a chain to keep that closed. When we have the red alerts, PSPS or fire danger. So it's exciting.
Cool.
Great.
Well, if you guys need help with the kiosk, I'd be happy to volunteer. So,
Write that down.
yeah.
We have it recorded.
Thank you so much, and great work out there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Team effort. The engineers and working with the collaboration with Parks and Rec's been great. The public outreach. So it's a team effort.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Patrick and Kara, too. And meeting is adjourned at 7:47.
Thank you, Tara.